War and Peace, Volume 3, Chapter 15. So in this chapter talks about the beginning stages of the war. So for the Battle of Austerlitz, it was between Napoleon's French forces and the Russian forces. So Napoleon's forces have around 68,000 French troops, and the Russian forces have around 90,000 troops. So that's a big gap. The Russian troops have a lot to their advantage, more than the French, and so while being outnumbered, Napoleon obviously he has to think of something in order to beat those Russian forces. So from the previous chapter, he already has his strategy all planned out. So now all he has to do is execute it. And when it comes to playing out this chapter, all the respective Russian generals are commanding their troops in their respective positions, and Kutuzov's position is stationed around Pretsin village, and all of his troops are here, but these troops are very unwilling to follow Kutuzov, or just have no desire to be commanded by Kutuzov. And from the way that Kutuzov explains everything, it seems that the soldiers dislike him a lot, and just want the glory of battle, and just want to get things out of the way. But Kutuzov, he's a strict and detailed man. He's basically a perfectionist. He needs everything to be in position, well positioned, in order for a battle to be, in order to be fully prepared for everything. And so one of the generals commanding his troops talks to Kutuzov and Kutuzov about their forces are in position, and that they should attack now. But obviously Kutuzov knows that that isn't the case, and that the general keeps explaining that the enemy is way off, and they have plenty of time before the battle starts. But Kutuzov, who wants everything to become perfect, wants all his troops the way he wants to, and if they're not in formation, all of the formation, he becomes very angry. And when he's angry, he yells at the general, and he decides to have all of the troops put back in position, and that he's the one that decides everything, and not him, and not anybody else. And the general under him reluctantly does that, meanwhile, after that conversation, Kutuzov tells Prince Andrew to get the sharpshooters ready, or the I guess you could say the snipers, and so Prince Andrew follows that order, and and he rides around to find a division, find a soldier division that will become the sharpshooters, and Napoleon sharpshooters. And so when Prince Andrew completes that task, he rides back, and the amount of time he takes is about 2 miles. 2 miles, because some of his forces are some of his soldiers are a little bit far away. He needs to be positioned a little bit further away from the village, for the sharpshooters to happen. And so Prince Andrew comes back, and he reports back to Kutuzov. Kutuzov gives Prince Andrew the okay. Which lessens his mood a little bit, but still he's angry with the whole army he's commanding. And so a little while later, some two figures end up coming into distant to see Kutuzov, and these two figures are Emperor Alexander and Emperor Francis, which is the Austrian emperor. And so these two emperors, they when they get to Kutuzov, they question him on what he's doing right now, since the battle has already started, and Kutuzov is just basically stopped doing things halfway. Emperor Alexander questions him on why he has not moved his troops and why he's not attacked. And then Kutuzov explains that his army isn't fully prepared yet, and his army isn't well positioned. And so then that makes the emperor and the Austrian emperor angry, even though they don't really show it. But even though Emperor Alexander doesn't show it, but the Austrian emperor does, and he really just doesn't like the way things are playing out. And from the look that Emperor Francis is giving to Kutuzov makes a little bit of a face that doesn't really agree. And so Kutuzov, who knows the situation, reluctantly agrees and agrees to the emperor's request. And so even though he knows that there's something going on, and the emperor's not happy, but he does the order anyway, and he orders all of the troops to move out at once. So right now you have the battle that has already began halfway, and it's again halfway, and the French troops right now have 68,000, and the Russian forces have 90,000. So these two forces are clashing right now. And Kutuzov just hold up at the Prexin village, and hasn't moved one bit. So obviously, if I were in that position, and I have a bunch of incompetent soldiers that really want to die, I would be pretty angry too. And when these soldiers don't follow my orders, then that would be a really awful time. And even so, when the emperor comes, I'd have no choice but to accept the tasked to move my soldiers into battle, and even if I wouldn't agree to that, I would still do it anyway because it's the emperor, and I wouldn't want to disagree with the emperor. Besides, there's two emperors, so it's like there's a lot of pressure on Kutsov. A lot of pressure. And yeah, so I think that's it.